Welcome back to the channel. Well, another freezing day in Melbourne. I've got the door shut and had the heater going. We had Josh come over yesterday and we smashed out quite a lot of the electrics. So we got all the indicators and all bits and pieces inside working, got the battery all hooked up. Obviously it's all just temporary, but at least we've got a lot of things working, which is cool. What else did we do yesterday? We put the back window in, so that's all done. That was quite easy. We also have the rear seat in the back. And what I thought we'll do today is get the blaze cut installed. Because it's nice and high and there's no motor in here and I can access this area. I figured why not, let's pop it in. And I know you guys have seen these things before. Pop it up here on the bench. I like to mount the blaze cut with not using the zip ties, but using these little guys. These little clamps, they just go around. They just look a lot more professional. Yeah, so let's get this set up and we'll get that installed in the back engine bay. Now, for people who don't know what the blaze cut is, this is a fire suppression system. That is pretty much it. It's literally got a gas in it that'll get up to a certain temperature. You can see it's got a little gauge there, like a fire extinguisher. You can look them up on their website and see this thing in action. It's pretty good. It will definitely save your bus if you have any kind of fire. Of course, if your engine block is on fire, forget about it. You ain't going to put it out. But you know what I mean. Generally, it's just good, cheap insurance. You know, they're about $300. So I always tell the customers to put them in, just cheap insurance. All installed. You can see I just screwed through the little side channel instead of going up through the floor. So one there, one up there, one straight up into this channel, one there, and one over there, and then a couple of zip ties up here. And that's really all it needs. I mean, it's basically protecting the whole engine bay. And the way they work, obviously, once they get up to a certain temperature, if the engine catches on fire, they'll explode. And I think it's like 270 psi of retardant that comes out, and it pretty much puts the fire out before it can take hold. So very good, cheap insurance. Okay, that part's done. We will continue on with some other tasks at hand. So one of the next jobs we're going to do is the 6-volt starter motor. We're going to give that a bit of a clean. We're going to run it, even though we're running 12-volt system, it'll just spin a little bit faster, but it's just going to be a lot easier than trying to muck around with changing flywheels and everything else, because we're still running 36 horse motor, so we're going to be running it on 12 volts, and we'll just have to get swap out the gen or work it out down the track. But anyway, we're going to get this thing cleaned up and go from there.
A few moments later.
Gave the casing a sandblast. Got it all this protected, obviously, so we didn't get stuff inside it, but at least all the terminals are all nice and clean now. And I can give that a coat of black paint and call it good. Internally, I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, if it needs to be rebuilt, we can do that. No big deal. But we're just going to run it as it is and see what happens. So I've actually put the 6-volt push back in. I just pressed it back in there, and we'll just get this thing mounted and see what happens. Bit of an experiment, I suppose, but anyway, let's give it some black paint and get it installed into the gearbox. All right, so we've got our starter motor nice and shiny. Well, not really shiny, it's like a matte silver, but that will match the gearbox. I don't even know if it works. We'll have to whack it on the battery and test it, because hey, it's been sitting in that bus for quite a lot of years, so we'll see whether she works or not. So on to some other things. We've got the Safari frames out. I've been just repairing some parts on them. They were obviously really bad. That part there was snapped off, so I had to very strategically TIG weld that back on to get that little hinge to work. And you know what? Look, they're pretty rough, but they're going to work. You know, we've just tried to give them a little bit of paint, but you can see inside the guts in here, they're not the best. They've got a bit of rust in there, so I'll have to do a little bit of treatment. But they will hold the glass, and obviously once the seals and everything are in, they're going to work. So we're all good there. Let's see how we go putting this thing together with some new glass. There's a little more progress to the beast. We've got the Safaris in. I've just left the green tape on there just to protect the glass. And what else have we done? Look, we've put the pedals in, got the steering column in. Electrics, most of the electrics are done. We've just got to feed these wires through for the semaphores. to get those to work, and we've got to still rebuild those as well. We also do have in the back there, the back seat is in from the upholsterer, and we still need to get the brackets, the mounting brackets for the floor, and also I've got to fabricate some brackets for the side backrest section at the back there too, because there's nothing there. What else? I haven't put this window here in because I had some issues, and I will show you what the issue is. Not happy about it. I was actually putting the quarter window in, brand new rubber, brand new quarter window from Wolfberg West. And as I was installing it, I went to shut it and snap, the winder actually snapped off. The latch. I hardly put any pressure on it, and I've put tons of these things in before. As you can see here, you know, with new rubbers, you do have to push with your hand in order to lock them, but it just sheared straight off with no force at all, so pretty unhappy about that. I actually did put that tiny piece back on, and I TIG welded it back on, and I thought I'd, you know, dodged a bullet, but no, it actually snapped again, and I thought, oh, bloody hell. Aftermarket quality, not very good, I'm afraid. So I've had to order that piece, and of course now that means that I'm going to have to remove the glass from the frame, and anyone that hasn't done that before, yeah, not a fun job at all. It's actually quite tough to remove it and put it back in again. So, you know, torture, pain, that sort of thing. That's what happens. Sometimes things work and other times they don't. So anyway, that's one little odd part that we're going to have to muck around with. Another issue which we have, I suppose it's not really an issue, is because we're running this bus as a 36 horsepower original motor, but we're going to be running 12 volt, we're going to run into the problem of the whole generator and regulator issue. So I just watched one of Mike's videos from a few years ago, and he talked about just running the 6 volt generator and putting a 12 volt regulator on top of it, and he ran it for a year or two and he said it was fine. So we're going to do the same thing. Otherwise, the only other option is either getting the generator rewired, which I don't think there's any rewirers in Victoria anymore, so or get a Porsche regulator, which they're pretty pricey and hard to find. So I think we're just going to go with running the 12 volt regulator on top of the 6 volt generator and 6 volt starter motor too, and then we can keep the flywheel and everything else intact. So we'll see how that goes. We want to make the thing look original, but obviously we want the drivability of 12 volt for the LEDs and everything else. So we've got to get the motor from Melbourne Boy's place. That, you know, that'll be one of the last things. We've still got to bleed the brakes, and I'm anticipating leaking brake lines, because that's just what happens. And I have bought a brand new kit here. This is my new super duper flaring kit, and this one was an expensive one actually, because I've bought I think 3 other kits and they've all failed. So this one here is apparently the duck's nuts. So if I have to reflare some ends, we can do it with a brand new kit. So one more little piece of arsenal kit for the DMOP garage headquarters. So anyway, that's kind of the update as we stand at the moment. Yeah, so we'll just continue on. Actually, a question for you guys. Now this is a brake light, and you can actually have a look on it. It does have VW and Hella. I don't recognise this housing, and to me it does look like an early, I mean it was on this bus, but it's not the same as this style, and I don't know whether that's just because I think that ring's just been collapsed in. Yeah, I think it is the same. I think this is just sitting out more proud, and this has been flattened. But I think that is the originals. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, that was on there, so I think I just answered my own question. Anyway, let's continue with some more fiddly bits and pieces to get this thing ready for driving. Righto, so we've got a box of goodies from Steve up at Das Resto, and we've got some new cables. These are the 3 cables that we're going to need to run to the back. Heating cables, choke cable, and reserve fuel cable. So we've got those 3. What other little goodies have we got? We've got some stops for the seats, because the ones we had in there were perished. So we've got new ones of those. We have our new little quarter window latch, And of course, we've got to do this repair here and take the glass out, and that's going to be painful. We also have some wing nuts for the Safaris because they were disappeared and not there. We also have a new fuel gauge in there, little Smith's fuel gauge, and our center pin. And that's what we're going to do right now. So let's get this out of the box and check it out, make sure we know what the hell is going on here. Oh, you can see our little VW hubcaps. We've gone and put a little logo in the middle of them with some paint just to make them look a little bit more authentic. So here's our little center pin. It comes with the, there's our little bushes. Let's pop these all down here. And it comes with a little, that's the dust cap, little rubber O-ring seals, and that's the clip for the bolt at the end to stop it winding back out. But there's the 2 new bushes, and then of course our new center pin. There it is right there. So we're going to get this installed, and then we can continue, and of course the bolt. Right, so first things first, we've got to make sure these have an orientation to them. If you look inside, there's a groove, and that's for the grease to run down that little gallery, so it will actually lubricate the bushes. So you have to make sure that these go in the right way. So we'll jump under the bus, get some light, and get cracking into this thing. Righto, so if you have a look here, the bush and the orientation of the bush, you can see that little groove down inside here. That has to, if you're going to put the top one in, and I'm just going to pop it in from above and press it down, you've got to make sure that that groove is in the middle, because there's a void in the middle part of this shaft. There's a void, so when you put the grease in, the grease will travel up and then run up inside that little groove, and that'll keep them lubricated. And if you don't grease them, well, that's why they clap out. So that one's going to get pressed in that way, and then the bottom one will do the opposite. So you can see there's the groove, there's the flat part of the groove on the inside of that. So that one is going to go that way, like so. Okay, so we'll press this top one in. I'm just going to try using a G-clamp, a big one like this, and just place it up on top of it with a bit of a packer, and then just see if I can wind it in. I don't know, we'll see if this works. Normally I do this with the beam out on the ground, but I'm not taking the beam out, so so let's see how we go. What we want to make sure here is we leave the appropriate little gap at the top for the other parts to sit on top. So we want to go just a tiny bit further than that, and we're good. Okay guys, so to put the bottom one in, what you can do is get yourself a 21mm socket and turn it upside down and stick it in a shaft, like so. And then you'll see that the bush actually sits perfectly on it, and that won't get stuck inside the shaft. You can see there it'll ride right in. So yeah, pop it on like that, and then you can tap it home with a hammer. Okay, so bushes are in. Next thing we're going to do, one more thing too, just make sure that is cleaned out and make sure it's working too. I pumped some grease through it, and it was flowing through, so that's critical. You know, you don't want to go and put it all together and then find that's not actually doing its job. So there you go. So if you look inside, you'll see there's actually a gap between the bushes, and you can see that that's where the grease will flow between the 2 channels and end up lubricating what you've got to do. So that's cool. Okay, so the next stage now is doing the reaming, and yeah, let's get stuck into that. And there you go, got a nice tight fitting pin. All right, we can get this thing installed now. So what we've got here, because this is a 55, the kit is actually more specified more for a later model one. So some of these components we don't use. So the center pin is the same, and so the thrust washer on the bottom we use on the pin. But what happens next is this little O-ring here hasn't got a place on the back side of that. There's no step in it. And the later model ones have a little step where that washer will fit. So what actually came off this was the wavy washer and 3 shims on the top, and that was it. There was nothing else. So no dust cap, none of this. So this is all for late model stuff. So what we're going to do is just put it back exactly how it was. But what I might do, I'm just not sure about these 3 shims that they've got in there, and I don't know whether or not that was... I mean, it does look like it was factory, so we'll just see what the alignment of the bolt is like with all this going back together. But obviously, let's grease it all up. And I mean, you can see here, even that wavy washer there is totally different. So we're not going to use these parts. I'm even debating whether or not we use this. I don't think that is even going to fit. We'll try it. We'll see how we go. We'll just put it in. So first things first, just grease up the center pin, put a bit of grease on that, and then slide it home, get it inside. Let's go. Got our groove facing. I'm going to make sure we put this on the right way too. That's got to go like so. And then we're going to have to press that down. Yes, it doesn't even give you a provision on top to put that cap on, which is interesting. Let's get the clamp and we'll get it clamped on. Go. Oh, and my torch died. Right, so that's done. And all we're going to do now is just bend these tabs over, one this way and that one that way, and that'll stop the bolt from backing out. And then the job's done, and then we can start installing the rest of the stuff. So let's get cracking on that. I'm going to pack this full of grease. That's it. Nice and full. Always clean the grease off, right, Doc? Always clean the grease off. So that'll be the next thing, guys, is just getting that nipped up, all that, get the tie rods nipped up on it, and yeah, call it good, move on to the next job. Let's go. Okay, so we're back in the cabin here. I've just installed the new 2 cables, and they're just running through the floor underneath, and we've just got to plumb them back to the back. Obviously, we've got the reserve and the choke, I think, is over there, and reserve is here, but it might be the other way around, but they're both the same cable. So, but they're the brand new ones. I still need to pull this apart. There's a little pin, and you've got to unscrew it, take all the cables out, and feed some new ones through for the heater. They're obviously just spinning around and doing nothing. What I do want to do is try and save the original knob, which we've pretty much saved all of them so far. So I've just polished these ones up on the polisher, but these are the original knobs that came in the van. So I've got one more to go to try and get it off the shaft, and it's rusted on there solid. There's another one there. That's another original one. These are the Bakelite ones. But I've got one more to go. I can't get it off. It's solid, and I don't want to I mean, these things are so fragile, you know, they just fall apart. But the trick I did before, and it actually worked, is you just heat the shaft up and it just transfers the heat inside it, and then all of a sudden they unscrew. So we're going to try it on this one. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can get this thing to work. A little bit of WD-40. And then we're going to heat her up. See what happens. Let's try that. I'll put a glove on because it's going to be hot. Just interested to see whether... No. No. A little more. Keep going. Well, that's out the way, which is good, but no, she's still solid. Keep going. Okay. Try that. Looks like it wants to go. I might just pop it on a bit of an angle and see if we can drop in some WD-40 inside it a little bit. See if that does soak in. And just try and cool it down a little bit. Maybe that thermal shock of, it's definitely got some fatigue cracks in there, so I don't like our chances, but all right. Oh no, here we go. We're getting movement. We are getting a little bit of movement. Look at that, just that tiny bit of movement. That's enough to get the ball rolling, I think. Don't want to go and stress it too much, but all right. I think we're on a winner, dudes. Yeah. How's that for a trick, eh? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Woohoo! Okay, we're going to go and buff that. And that's a saved 1955 black knob. Oh yeah. Okay guys, so we have got the knobs in place. These ones are all working now. I've still got to get that one done, but I've also gone and put the other window in. So we had success with the quarter window and putting the new lock on. So that was all done. I just played around with the actual rubber a bit more and trimmed a few strategic places so that we don't have so much pressure on it. So that one is working fine now. I just gave it a bit of lubrication too on the rubber, and yeah, that one's all ready to rock and roll now. So one more job today. I think I'll just get these heater cables out and we'll change that out, and yeah, a few more bits and pieces along the way. Let's keep moving. Right, so we've been playing around with the Safaris just a little bit because they weren't quite sliding and shutting properly. These tabs here were all bent, and of course the geometry was out, so when you'd undo the wing nuts, they would just slide and carry on and they'd bind up and wouldn't shut properly. But anyway, a couple of about 20 minutes just playing around with them, and now they're shutting properly, which is good. What I did do is I just took out the disengagers, and they're actually the factory ones. These are super hard to find, obviously, because they're real ones, and they're, look, we probably could rebuild them, and I probably will try down the track. I think we'll just try and de-rust them, and I know you can see there's a spring inside that will need replacing, but I reckon we might be able to get these to work. But in the meantime, obviously it's going to take a lot of time to do that. I have a brand new set here. These ones are from Wolfgang International in the States, so we're going to install those. At least we can get that bit ticked off. What other bits and pieces have we done today? Well, I've been bleeding the brakes actually, and that all went pretty well. I had a couple of little leaks that just needed retightening, and that was it. So we've dodged a bullet with having to redo brake lines, which is fantastic. So the brakes are done. We've got a nice stiff pedal. We've got to put also sound deadener. We've got the door cards there to paint grey and screw those all in, but we've got the sound deadener at the back there that needs to be put in as well. I've just given this area a bit of a clean up just to make it look a little bit more respectable. We have to put the fuel gauge. We're still waiting for some globes in the speedo so that we can mount the speedo and finalise all the rest of the electrics, but they're pretty much done. It's ready to go after that. We're waiting on the motor and a few other bits and pieces. We'll probably give this area up here. This has got a lot of oxidisation on the paint, so we'll go over all that and just clean that up a little bit too. But all in all, we're doing well. So let's get these disengagers installed. That'll be one of the last jobs for today's effort that we're going to do. Okay, so here's the new little spindles in position. They're done. Not too hard to put in. You can just reach your hand through here and jump underneath. One more job done. We'll get the windscreen wipers. We can mount those as well. We've got mirrors coming. We've got new wheels coming, new tyres coming. The badge is going to be the last thing that we put on this thing before it rolls out of the DMOP headquarters. Anyway, I think that might be it for today. It's getting cold and miserable and dark, and I'm going to go inside and have a coffee and snuggle up under the blanket and watch a bit of Star Wars. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Catch you later. You.